3, 4. Okay, it's taking a bit more time. There it is.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, it's loading. Did Jonathan left? Okay, so right now we are live on YouTube, guys. Gidon, back to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Did mom just left the call? Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome for the first meetup from IXDA Africa. I'm really happy to be part of the group. And like, my name is Gideon, and I'm from IXDA Maputo. So in the call, we have Malek, Karim, James, uh, James Richard, and Wayne. So I will let everyone introduce themselves. Like, let's start with Karim.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karim. I'm from Tunisia. I'm the founder of XZ Tunis. I'm not a designer, but I'm a digital marketer and photographer, really involved in my daily life and work as a communication expert with design. And I'm really happy to see you all, everybody here. XZ Tunis was, was running for over 2 years now, and it did offer the community a new space for learning and sharing. And we got, we did have like many workshops over 2 years. Many have been in Tunis and other cities, and I think that our community is getting stronger every day, and everybody is learning. Thanks to the team, I am gonna mention Marwan, Ghazi, Nasreen, Malek, and Meher, and also Monji, and everybody being part of our community. So thanks a lot for making this happen.
Thank you, Karim. Jump to you, Wayne.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Wayne Coughlin. I'm the regional coordinator for IXDA Africa and Middle East. We proudly have 25 local groups throughout the Africa and the Middle East region area. Every year we meet up to come together at the Interaction Design Week. This year it took place in Milan. So we happily got out there before the virus had made its way into that part of Italy. Yeah, proudly, leading the team in the region. I'm very happy with what's happening in our region. We have a lot of new applications to grow the region. So I think, keep an eye on where we're heading as we grow into the near future. Thank you, Gideon, for hosting this particular event.
Thank you, Wayne. Let's go to Malik.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm very honored and pleased to be part of this. So I'm Abdul Said Malik. I'm basically an architecture designer, a graphic designer, and I hold a great passion for UX design. So I'm a member of XDA Tunis since a year now, and it's been such an honor to be part of this.
Thank you, Malik. Richard? We can't hear you, Richard.
Hi, everyone. I am
Yes,
Richard
it's working
Tamnotoyin. Yeah, I'm Richard Tamnotoyin, the ISDA lead founder of ISDA Port Harcourt. I'm a UX designer currently based in Port Harcourt, Nigeria. And like the community here in Port Harcourt have been so amazing. We started last year, and so far we have over 500 active members, and like we are growing consistently. We have hosted several events where we come together, learn, network, share experience, and also from time to time we also call speakers from outside. Like last month, we had Gideon with us to share his experience on how to be a world-class designer. So far it has been great, and I'm also very happy to be part of this awesome movement, because for me, collaboration is the way forward, working with other people from different areas, trying to see how we can leverage on design and create more sustainable solutions in Africa. So thank you, I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Richard. James? Hi, James.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is James Moses, and I'm a UI and UX designer. So in the past few years, I've been really passionate about design and solving actual problems within our ecosystem. And so I'm the founder and of IXDA UYO, based in Nigeria. So I currently shuttle between community lead for Trello and then other groups within our ecosystem as a designer. So like I said earlier, I'm really passionate about design and building real and workable products for our ecosystem. So for IXD, we have been active for, I believe, getting to a year, not really close to a year. We started out last year, along during the IXDD event period. That's when we got started. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for the great team, the collaboration. Thank you, Mr. Wayne, Gideon, Richard, everyone. I'm really happy, and let's get started. Thank you.
I think, hello?
Yeah, yeah, more is coming right away.
Okay, nice. I think we lost James.
He had to enable his microphone.
James, I think, okay, are you finished? I think I didn't hear you closing.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I said I am a UI and UX designer. So I'm really passionate about building a usable product to solve Africa problem. And I'm really vibed up to be a part of the IXDA community. So I'm the founder of IXDA UYO, based in Nigeria. So alongside the community lead for Trello, UYO, and then other sub community within the ecosystem. So I'm really vibed up. I guess most of our viewers are here already to really learn from this live section. So like it said, this is a meetup for Africa in general. So thank you to Mr. Wayne, Gideon, Richard, Mo, and Majik. I see you all. You all are doing a great job. I'm really happy to be part of this community. Thank you, guys.
Mo, we just done a quick introductions. Can you jump into the conversation? Quick introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Gideon. Looking forward to you hosting an awesome session, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, my name is Mohammed Jogi. I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And my background is design and art and writing and activism. So that's literally how I spend my days. I'm very thankful to Karim and Gideon and James and Richard, Jonathan from the other side of the Atlantic, and Malek, of course, the rose amongst the thorns, and of course, Wayne for always being patient in handling and facilitating my emails. I'm looking forward to a very interesting conversation this evening. Early morning for you, Jonathan. Apologies, man.
No problem.
Jonathan, I think we've just done a quick introductions. Can you quick introduce yourself to our audience?
I'm happy to. Good morning from my end here. My name is Jonathan Strebley, based in Vancouver, which is on the west coast of Canada. And my design contributions revolve around brand strategy and design directing, multidisciplinary approaches to design solutions that has been in a number of different fields and industries. On the advocacy side and the contributions on the volunteer elements of design is I'm the past national president of the Graphic Designers of Canada, and I'm the current president of the International Council of Design.
Oh.
Thank you.
It's
Jonathan.
such an honor.
Yes,
Really.
it is. It is definitely. Like to kick off our conversation, I would like to start with how you guys like with a very important topic, which is the current. Yes, Wayne.
Has Malek introduced herself?
Yeah, she did.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Saying like to start our conversation, I would like to start with a very pertinent question, which is the state of design in our continent, like in Africa. So I would like to know, like, how is your guys' opinion regarding that topic? So how do you think is the current scenario of design in Africa in general? I think one of the best person to answer this question is you, Wayne. You would like to give your opinion about that?
Yeah, sure. What I find fascinating with Africa, as well as the Middle East, with the two, call it sections of the region, is that we certainly are a sort of a mixed tapestry of cultures. And from Northern Africa, Central Africa, we've got a growing Nigerian group that is slowly getting bigger, with Cameroon right next door. And then down in the south, Mohammed, yourself in Maputo as well. I find that the cultures are really influencing what is coming out of the design, what is coming out of Africa. I do believe that Africa has its own unique set of problems, and in turn, it involves African solutions to move ahead. And one thing that I notice that as part of IXDA, we have the IXDA Awards, and we are always really hungry looking for African design that is Afrocentric, rather than, let's say, sort of African design that maybe emulates perhaps a European or a sort of an American style. So it's also a call out to anyone out there who is in the field of UX, including our amazing local leaders, to please consider entering designs that you feel speak to and represent what is happening on the African soil as well. I'm not going to talk about IXDD, or maybe I'll slip that in a little bit later, Gideon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne. To have a different perspective, I would like to know from you, Jonathan, how do you guys from outside Africa see the current scenario of design?
Well, I can give two perspectives. One would be very micro and local to Vancouver and Canadian design, and the other would be with the fortunate benefits I've had of being able to travel and be able to see so many aspects of design around the world and be able to experience that, including a recent visit to South Africa earlier this year, or sorry, late last year. And I think what I'm hearing is the need for understanding that there's a certain democratization in design, and understanding that, you know, design is neither Western nor Eastern, much like innovation. You know, design and innovation is inherently human. we strive to seek solutions in the scenarios we find ourselves in, and that creates processes and opportunities for us to find ways to manage and hopefully prosper. And through that, there's new recognitions of values of social equity, cultural sovereignty, and ensuring that you don't lose yourself in the process. And I would only summarize that by just saying that what I've seen is that there's always the grass is greener, or let's see what other people are doing, and then we fall in line. And with my own experience here in Vancouver, I understand that, as a background as a settler, essentially, and here I am arriving, or my family arriving into an environment of First Nations. There's thousands of years of culture that has been maligned or put aside, and not really bringing the inherent grassroots of appreciation for what it is to be local and to be culturally diverse. And so my comment on that is that if in respect to understanding who you are and where you are today versus where you'd like to be known outside of that, is to ensure you have both diversity and the sovereignty of diversification, and the appreciation for inclusivity without losing yourself in the process.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Jonathan. And jumping to you, Mo, like I think we kind of have a more global perspective, more regional perspective from Wayne, and like outside perspective from Jonathan. For Mo, I would like to know your opinion from a design practitioner. So how do you see design in Africa, but more specifically in your region? I think you're muted. Still muted, Mo?
Thanks, Gideon. I was happily chatting to myself there. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Chair. I was asking, do you mind if I share my screen? And perhaps I'd like to kind of just respond to your question very much as part of a broader conversation. So,
okay.
Let me just get this going first, and then I'd just like to share my screen. I've just thrown together a couple of slides of, the experience that we face in our region, and I guess it's endemic to many parts of the world. And the question then, of course, is how do we create design that is appropriate for these different contexts, right? So let me start sharing, and then can you guys see my screen okay? So the question I'd like to put forward, Gideon, is this design dilemma, this dichotomy of economies that we find ourselves in. So whether we're in Johannesburg or Tunis or Cairo or Mozambique or Abuja, we seem to have this challenge. And, if design is meant to be inclusive, then how do we make it a kind of shared experience? So for example, the image on the left is the richest square mile in Africa, which is Sandton. And then just across the freeway, Gideon, you're very familiar with this. We've got an aerial shot of one of the most impoverished townships in South Africa called Alexandra, where in the space of 1.7, 1.8 square kilometers, you've got close to 1 million people living in really abject conditions. And this is the dichotomy. So when we create UX and we create the experience, do we create it against the skies, the gleaming skyscrapers on the right? I beg your pardon, the other right? Or do we create it for the communities that are the forgotten, as Jonathan was saying earlier?
Okay.
Here's another example. We have a world-class bullet train called the Gautrain on the right, and we have winding queues of people. This is North Street taxi rank, where on a Friday month end, it's going to take a sister that's working in the suburbs probably 4 hours to get to Soweto, which is what, a mere 15 to 20 kilometers away. And this is the dilemma, right? So do we finesse and make pretty Helvetica for the audience on the right? Or do we come up with systems that create equality and equilibrium, and not in a kind of Messiah kind of way, in a genuine, authentic, honest way? As designers, I think these are the questions we need to ask ourselves, right?
Okay.
Here we have a tavern in Khayelitsha on the right, other right, designer right, which means left, right, Gideon. And then we've got this beautiful sunset, picturesque, right, of what is arguably the most beautiful mountain in the world. Where you can spend up to 300 million rand on a property. That's one I saw recently in Camps Bay. So how do we design for these disparities? This is the challenge that I think each one of us have to deal with,
Okay.
Wire cars, I'm sure some of us, brings back fond memories, but it's not really cool running around industrial townships with kind of affluent running down the streets, right? Here we have and Wayne can talk to this, we've got these really cool spaces in Rosebank, and Gideon, you're familiar with them as well, where we've got like this cool designer spaces with lime green chairs and color-coded shelves and all of that. And then the image on the left is you've got absolute desperate conditions. This is a school in the Eastern Cape. I was looking at a school recently in Lepalale, which, yeah, man, it's actually shameful that after 25 years we have facilities of education like that. I mean, it's really, really bad. Again, the lockdown experience around COVID. On the left-hand side, we have folks being tested, and you see similar types of setups in informal settlements, particularly around. So our Social Security Agency gave out an unemployment grant of 350 rand. What does that equate to, Gideon, in dollars? Probably like $20 US, right? Ish.
30 to 40.
No, that's too much. It's 10. It's less. I think we're at about 18 now, 16, 17-ish.
Yeah,
call it
around that.
Call it 30.
It's around,
call it 30. Let's be generous and call it 30.
Yeah.
Let's be generous and call it $30,
yeah.
Gideon. But you've got people kind of winding around street corners, and this is the question that I think I asked myself. In terms of us creating equitable and just societies, we simply cannot go to bed each night knowing that some of us are able to take our big tire bicycles for a leisurely ride on the beachfront, and our fellow countrymen are living in abject poverty. And this is true of experiences, in Maputo. It's true of experiences in Lagos. I mean, you see tremendous wealth, and then you see abject poverty, and that's for me the fundamentals of how do we kind of design in a way that's just and equitable. And so if UX is all about, for me, if UX is all about inclusivity and engaging, bringing the what's the word I'm looking for here, Gideon? Bringing the user to the forefront, then if it's user-centric, how do we create
Okay.
a system that, a design system that is equitable and caters to all segments of our community? That's the kind of questions I think we should be having a conversation around.
Okay, I see. Are you still sharing? Are you pretending to share something else? You still sharing your screen? Oh, okay. Thanks, Mo, for your fantastic perspective. It's a very thoughtful and it's a very thought-provoking perspective. It made me think a lot like myself, like actually shake a bit of my values. Thanks for that. Like shifting around a bit the conversation, like because I think we kind of managed to balance the perspective in terms of how do we feel about design from different areas. I will jump just to spicy a bit the conversation and talk about culture and how do we think culture can impact, or how design can impact culture with the things that we do. To kick off that part of the conversation, I would like to invite James. So how do you think, like, what is our role, like as designers, like that we have to impact culture? James, if you're talking, you unmute.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi, James.
Okay. Can you rephrase your question again, please? Yeah.
So I was asking, what do you think? What is our role as designers? So what can we do to impact like culture, with the products that we create?
Okay. So number one, I feel as designers, we have a lot to do to help improve our ecosystem, be it in South Africa, Nigeria, Abuja, Lagos, or even the smallest community, wherever you are. I just have three things listed down here to answer that quickly. Number one, I feel we should actually understand the problem of our people and basically who we are designing for. That is where, as designers, we could relate that to design thinking. So that's where design thinking comes in. And we all know our design thinking process: defining problems, being emphatic, understand what really are the problems society is going through. Just like what Mo shared, that was really touching for me. And I feel that's really a turning point to help really improve our ecosystem. So I feel number one, as designers, we should try as much as to be emphatic, which is understanding the problem which we are solving, and then design for humans, because I feel that's one issue we as designers keep neglecting. We don't really design for the people. All right, we most times we tend to design for ourselves without putting the people first. So I feel number one, be emphatic. Number two, design for the people. And then number three is go beyond. All right. So what I mean by go beyond is go beyond just talking the design or just visualizing the design and then implementing those real-time solutions which we have defined, which we have seen, and then which we have designed for the people, into implementing all that we have designed. All right, all that we have designed. So basically, we as designers have a lot to do to help reshape their culture, their sustainability, to help reshape our society at large.
Okay. Thanks, James. That is a really, really different perspective. Malek, are you there? Hello.
Malek, are you here? Malek? I think she may have.
Yes, I'm right here.
Uh,
Are you guys seeing me?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, super great. As I mentioned, I'm not a UX expert, but in my perspective, I think that the huge amount of our diversity, especially as African, is great opportunity for us to distinguish and to understand more that this is really a key to make an impact. So that's basically what I see as an architecture designer or Are you seeing?
I think that Gideon have some technical issues. Hello, Gideon, can you hear me?
yes. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me.
Yes, you can hear me now. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm not sure where you stopped, Malik.
Malek, unmute the microphone, please.
Yes, so basically that's it.
Okay, I think I lost you for a bit, like internet issues. I'm sorry for that. Like on the same question, can we jump to you, Kareem? So
Yes.
what do you think is our role and how can we impact culture, like as designer?
Yeah, I'm gonna again go back to my examples. I'm dealing with did start digital marketing club in Togo, and I was hoping to give them live sessions for training with digital marketing. But in fact, I was really surprised by the fact that in Togo the connection was so slow, so expensive that people can't afford to watch live video in YouTube or on Facebook. They do rely totally in trainings using WhatsApp or Messenger. And I was wondering if you are going to design a website for in Togo right now. The main challenge with the gap and the culture, because people are using now for texting way much other than voice and video, that you have to design a website where the information should be mostly about text, about more than video, because it costs a lot. So it's a total different mindset web design in countries where connection is either slow or is not affordable. It's really not challenging for designers who are used to have like a very rich websites, like have a very rich experience, to go back to the basics. And I don't know, guys, if you know, there is a competition called the 5K website. It's an annual competition where web designers are competing to create the most rich and smallest 5 kilobytes whole website, using only the elements that CSS that can offer. And I don't know if you know about about Mario Bros. Mario Bros was a really
What is the
Mario
name?
Bros.
Sorry, what is the
Mario
name?
Bros. Yeah, Super Mario.
Okay.
Super Mario was designed using small sprites that have been replicated, and in this kind of competition, people have to use one small design graphic elements and to create a whole rich website. It's a total challenging. So uh, when it comes to UX, when it comes to culture, when it comes to Africa, I think that the designers have to use a different mindset. Based, the first gap is about the infrastructure, that it's not always affordable and in all the countries in the continent. So web designers have to think out of the box of the 22-inch monitor and luxury, Apple MacBook, the last one, and they'll go back to basics, go back to design rich, full websites, rich, web experiences that is easily now streamable online with really limited connection. And I think that's the case of the most applications. So there is a huge application used in Africa called U-Farm, and it's meant to put the buyers in relation with the fishermen and and the farmers. And this whole thing works absolutely 100% on text, because text is affordable. Everybody can afford smartphone. I mean a phone, basic phone, feature phone with the text, and it does work perfectly. You don't need really an application or a web interface to do that. So this is how people are resolving issues, are thinking outside the box, are thinking design when it comes to Africa. Okay, back to you, Gidon.
Okay, thanks. That's it's a very different insight. So like just asking about the competition that you said, what is the name about where people create the smallest possible website?
Sorry again.
The name of the competition that you said.
It's called the 5K. I think it's the 5K website competition.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you. Yeah, it's called the 5K.org.
Can you share the link, Karim?
Yeah, right away. It's called the 5K. I'm gonna if you don't mind, I'm gonna share it real quick. Not here. Okay, the link is here. I'm gonna put in the chat. It's amazing how go see the winning websites. It's gonna be amazing. You're gonna think about, okay, I have been doing all things wrong. I have been using WordPress with really heavy add-ons with heavy design. No, I can do better and faster websites for all my brands around the continent with just 5K, 5 kilobytes.
That's fantastic.
Just to let you know that
impressive.
Yeah, that 100 megabytes in I think in Togo is almost 10 USD, $10. Not $10, 10 local. It's expensive. It's really expensive. I don't know if Richard or any of the guys can support me about this, but the connection is very slow and really expensive.
Okay. Thanks, Karim. That is a really nice insight, and thanks for the link. I will definitely have a look myself. I think this is a very relevant challenge, and it's a very different way to see things. Richard, jumping to you.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Richard.
Yeah. I will quickly share in an image. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Okay.
Okay. So I shared an image. Actually, this was a personal experience I had. During this COVID-19 period, I was opportuned to work with the local agency, trying to create more awareness around COVID-19 within the local community. So actually, part of the challenges we had was in this part, we had more of locally made face mask. Okay. And most of the awareness was about how to use medical face mask, the professional ones, the ones, the surgical face mask, the ones doctors use most times. So that was not affordable to most of the local communities. So we saw tailors making customized face masks, reusable face masks. So one major challenge was the awareness. As you can see from the image, this guy might not know. He might think he's putting on a face mask. Okay. To him, the idea of face mask is anything that goes around the ears and covers the mouth and nose. So literally, this might be a face mask for him. one of the key findings we had was that most of the designs, as a designer, one thing I know is it's your job for you to create solution that cuts across every individual. Like people can use it and it has impact on the users. So we noticed most of the awareness was how to use disposable face mask and not. Let me share the second screen. Can you see this? Can you see the next image?
Not yet.
Yeah.
You still see the first one?
Okay. So can you see this? So
yes.
Yeah. So we had local tailors making this, and most of the awareness done was around the medical face mask, how to use and dispose them immediately after use. There were no much educative content on how to use reusable face mask effectively, how to wash them, how to take care of them to avoid the COVID-19 spread. So that was a major key finding we had. And that also has to do with accessibility and inclusiveness. We discovered that the awareness going around was not inclusive to the local community, to the rural areas where they don't have access to the necessary materials. So generally, people find a way of using the resources they have for their solution. So, and as designers, I believe one of our major goals is for us to create solution that works across every demography, across everybody, and that is where culture comes in. If you don't understand what is happening there, if you don't understand how the users interact with these stuff, if you don't understand the resources available to them, we might not be able to create solution that meets their need. So basically, I believe, yeah, Africa, we are getting there. We're getting there because I see people coming up with awesome ideas that are indigenous to Africa, that are actually solving real problems for the African community. So I feel, but we need to do more work on that. So basically, that's just it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think your vision is quite aligned to what Mo just presented. You guys are kind of talking the same language here, and still like talking the same language. Would you like to join the same conversation, Wayne? Having what Mo and now Richard said about how can we can we create like solutions that not are Helvetic. I'm not sure is the correct what exactly what Mo said, but is not focused on the beauty of Helvetica, but it's like a vertical solutions or more inclusive solutions for people.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Richard has spoken about design that's, you know, it's indigenous to Africa, and looking at the unique solutions for sort of an African culture. I lecture at the university, so I spend a lot of time with students who are from South Africa, but also we have a lot of students who come down from Central Africa who come and spend time with us. And in my teaching through the years, you know, we did shift from a more, if I can say, a more white university into a more Black university. And with that, you know, the whole idea of colonialism that has come through education as well, that's been heavily contested at the moment. And I'm finding my role often as a sort of a person of knowledge or an educator teaching the student. I'm finding my role is shifting from almost being the student as well, because the uniqueness of Africa and designing for a particular culture, I think, is way different from the sort of Eurocentric or American design, even Latin America or Asian design. So I'm really enjoying what I'm hearing here in the conversation from Richard, from James, from Mo, around the fact that we are designing for a very particular target market. And also the idea of inclusive design, designing for all, is not to let people be left behind in the process of design, because not everyone has the sort of wealth capital to be joining in. One of the images that Mo showed of the classrooms are very true to the better schools, or even the better universities or the private schools that you might find in and around South Africa, and also in, especially in Cape Town as well, in comparison to the sort of national universities, where I work as well, where it's not, there is a noticeable difference between the two. And I think although there is this universal design that is often been spoken about, I think there is strongly quite a thing as African design itself. And I think hopefully through meetups like this, hopefully through the work that's been done with all local leaders like yourselves and the other, and all 25 local groups that are in the region, that in fact we are designing for our very unique and particular needs in Africa, as well as in the Middle East.
Yeah, I see. Thanks. Fantastic, Wayne. Fantastic perspective. Thank you, Wayne. Jonathan, can you jump into the conversation and tell us your perspective?
The question was around what can we do as designers, and what I've been hearing from the group. And first of all, thank you to all of you for providing your own views and including your immediate environments of which you are representing yourselves and those that you serve. And I believe that's the touch point we need to talk about, is that, we need to remind ourselves, looking at Mo's presentation and seeing James's photographs, is that the idea of social inequity or the idea of economical inequity has been around a lot longer than design. But design is one of those solutions that could potentially see a pathway forward. And the way to do that is through innovation. And innovation happens through catalysts and paradigms and change and shift. And if we continue status quo, we don't truly grow. And what I'm hearing are the words design, I'm hearing the words culture, and hearing the words of values, and it reminded me immediately of a quote from Robert Peters, and it is, design creates culture, culture shapes values, and values determine the future. And if we are to imagine our role as designers in the future in a post-COVID world, how are we going to ensure that we bring the best of what design can do while leaving behind our complicity towards consumption, our complicity towards inequity, and to ensure that values that we bring forward are the driving force behind any of our disciplines of design? When we think of UX, we think of the user. And I remind all of us as designers is that design is a young profession. With the Industrial Revolution, taking craftsmen and artisans and turning them into designers at the behest of manufacturers and producers. For too long, designers have been the servants of manufacturers and producers. And today, our only role should be that of the ambassador of the end user. And by end user, which is a hard term for our children, our parents, our grandparents, our elders. Too often we forget to ask those that have survived so many difficult scenarios through their lifetime about how they got through it, and to bring those learnings into the future. So to answer your question, Gideon, in respect to what can we do as designers, I would suggest it's ensuring that whatever values we have of social equity, diversity, and inclusivity is that we remind ourselves that through our practice of design is that we remember that diversity is what you have, but inclusivity, true inclusivity, is what you do with it. So if everyone is at the table, but only one voice is being heard, are we truly inclusive? And what I see is a heightened sense of awareness for those that we need to be the ambassadors of, and to bring our skill sets forward to ensure that there's an equitable solution which is shared. Well, then we need to make sure that we are hearing all of those voices all the time. And that's not the easier way. That's the more difficult way. Being inclusive means sitting down, shutting up, and listening. And so if we're going to talk about what designers can do, first and foremost, it's to understand, first of all, to remind yourself the power of what you hold, but also our complicity and our accountability to what's transpired, and to switch that in ensuring that we take what we do into a future that is equitable for all.
Wow, thanks. Thanks, Jonathan. It's a super insightful conversation. My brain is melting here with a lot of really, really good insights from all of you guys. This is fantastic. Mo, in a form of a provocations, because you put the problem on the table. What do you think will be the solution for the problem? Mo, are you there?
Gideon, that's a big question, my brother. I think though we need to be honest, and you know, to Wayne's point and to your point earlier, in fact, everybody around the table, you know, our kind of training classically took us through a process of kerning and tracking, and, you know, becoming obsessed with Helvetica. And perhaps it is time for us to just reevaluate. So, you know, you mentioned the whole Paddy conversation, and there's been some really strong opinion around, and rightly so, around the abuse of Black people. Not just in the US, but historically African people, not because of, I'd like to state this, not because of the lack of intelligence, because that's not true. You know, we were smelting gold in Great Zimbabwe when Europe was in the Dark Ages. We had writing systems that, you know, Europe drew on, and that is very eloquently put in Saki Mafundiko's African alphabet. And all of these things. So just for example, like just kind of kind of aligning the thinking process, right? So around the whole Black Lives That Matter thing, we all are kind of crafting design. And I mean, you and I can typically go out there and jump into, you know, very kind of clean, almost Swiss-like design. But just that experience, if I may share with everybody, where that's taken me is, okay, so, you know, there's talk of Ghanaian symbology, et cetera, and I'm like, okay, so let's just kind of dig around. I spoke to a couple of friends. One of them is a gentleman by the name of Prince Dube, who's very, very knowledgeable on Zulu symbology, and just kind of playing with that. What we came up with is this beautiful symbolism of, it's kind of half finished. I'm not necessarily ready to show it to you guys. But if you could imagine a sine wave of triangles in a row, and that is referred to as King Shaga's Assegai. So Assegai, is, for those that are not familiar, is the Zulu spear. And the inverted triangle is a masculine, so it's a symbol of masculinity. But alongside that is you have the diamond shape, right? And the diamond shape talks to King Shaga's shield. But the diamond shape is also representative of femininity. So on the one hand, you have King Shaga's assegai. On the other hand, you have King Shaga's shield. And they bring together, masculinity and femininity. And for me, in terms of my personal growth, in terms of a designer right now, that's way more interesting than, say, and no disrespect to any part of the world, but, to what Wayne was talking about earlier, the stuff that we used to look at in Graphus. Anybody remembers those Graphus annuals as we were growing up as designers, right? So I think it's just a realignment to say, you know what, guys, it's cool. The fact that we need to cater to this dichotomy where we need to bring on board, the Gautrains of the world, or Standard Banks or HSBCs or whoever it might be, Apple, whoever the international brand might be, we can still give it a very rich and beautiful local spin, I think, Gideon, would be my contribution. So in terms of this discussion where we're talking about culture, I think it's important for us to look inwardly. And I would argue particularly to the lost voices, to the suppressed voices. They need to come to the fore. And I think there's a beautiful, rich cultural heritage there. But we do have to dig around because, it's hard to find that information because it's just been overlaid by layers of almost historic erasure, if you want,
Okay, that's fascinating. Thanks, Mo, for your and again your brilliant contribution. We're approaching the time for closing, so I will ask for final considerations from all of you, in a short sentence. So what do you guys think will be actionable actions that we could do as Africans? Africa. When I mean African is because of is a UX Africa event. Example, I will tell, if you ask me what can we do to improve the impact of design, shaping the culture, I would say creating more events like this. So I would like to know from you guys in a short sentence, what would you suggest we can do to improve with actionable things, starting with you, Karim.
This is gonna remind me, really quick about, the landmarks we have in Africa. Now, if you see Dakar, if you see, Lomé, if you see Johannesburg, if you see all the cities in Africa, even in Tunis here, or, let's start with this, we did have the chance to design new things, new landmarks that, maybe cast the past, looks forward. The designer's role in Africa is not put onto action. It's not really, people don't trust the designers. They trust, engineers to make roads, to pave roads. They trust, companies to build, towers. But I think that today's culture is that when we talk about, building things, having landmark, making the city looks, even better, we don't trust the designers. And the last designs of many landmarks in many African, cities, they come from colonial times. If you see Lomé in Togo, for example, or if you see Dakar, if you see, if you see even in Morocco, if you Rabat, the biggest, attractions were designed 100 years plus ago. Are the designers part of the new, of the present, of the designs involved in, creating new landmarks for our cities? And this applies to our way of life. This applies to the web. This applies to a lot of things. I think now that today the role of designers is really the first thing we have to work on to make people understand that the designers have a big impact on our society. You know, I have a very nice story. I tell this a lot. Over yeah. There is a coastal city in Tunisia called Kelibia, which is a very nice. It's like I don't know, it's like maybe California, Tunisian California. It's a very nice beach, and there is a small garden, and in this garden there is always a group of young people. They have a tape with the batteries, and they are always dancing, breakdance. I don't know what happened, but there was some kind of Swedish diplomat. He passed by, and he asked the city to fund this, small garden, which was basically nothing. It was some trees and some rubbish, and they made like this, that's kind of surface which is suitable to do breakdance, which is really smooth. And they did rename the place into the Svenska Garden, and they did add some kind of bench, and under the bench there was a electric plug, so the guys can plug their tape, and it became the breakdance garden because one guy passing by, he didn't understand the need, the design, the real need for that small place, and did invest on that. It wasn't really big investment, but was valuable enough to make young people really happy. So we can go ahead, with small stories, we can bring, big changes. That's my last message. Thank you.
Thank you, Karim. That's a really good story. Richard, like to close in actionable things that you think you can do as designer to take the culture forward.
Okay. I believe as designers, we are automatically problem solvers. We are there to solve problems. And you can't solve a problem you don't understand. It's impossible. So the best way as designers for us to solve the problems in Africa, to create solution that meets Africa, is for us to first understand. And how do we understand? Is through empathy. Okay, through empathy, like Jonathan said, you have to listen. Listen to the people you're designing for. Listen to the people you're creating these solutions for. Don't just create solutions based on assumption. And I think one problem we are having most time, we just copy solutions that work out there in the Western cultures and bring them down to Africa. And we forgot that the resources, the challenges they have there is not applicable here in Africa. We have a totally different challenge when it comes to demography, psychography, and all that. So I believe the first step is understanding through empathy and trying to create solution that meets the needs of the users. So basically, that's just it. You should try to understand the problems first. Yeah, so that is it.
Thanks, Richard. Wayne?
Thanks, Gideon. I'm going to be short and hope that in my time I can show the clip for the IXDD.
IXDD, okay.
But I think what we're doing is already a giant step. Coming together as a region, coming together as IXDA, inviting guests, talking about design. Richard's point totally so true, is we need to understand our user. African users, Middle East, European, Asian, Latin America, these are different types of users. And you can't rubber stamp the same thought or the same design across these different regions in the country, at least on the globe. And Mo's example of Apple, Apple branding, it's interesting that when Apple branding comes to Africa, it looks very much the same as the branding that is pushed out in the States. One doesn't see how do you adapt for this new marketplace, for the new user. You know, Richard spoke a lot about sort of empathizing. And I think that's something we can really work towards, that bigger brands start seeing us as Africa. And then also just to maybe do a quote for this session from Jonathan, which I'll certainly take away with, is the sit down, shut up, listen. I think that's a very powerful, I'm going to say 3 words, but just 3 very short sets of words as well. Yeah, thank you. Gideon, can I show the movie now? Or
Go for it. Go for it, Wayne.
I'm just going to quickly share the screen. Just to say that on the 29th of September, there's IXDA, a collaboration between IXDA and Adobe. They bring us World Interaction Design Day, IXDD. It's a global event this year because of the COVID-19 condition and lockdown, etc. It's going to be strictly an online event. And the amazing thing about that is that it's going to start in the East, Australia and Asia, and it's going to slowly move its way across the globe. It's going to be hitting us, Africa, Middle East first, and then it's going to be hitting Africa, shifting across Africa, hitting Europe as well at the same time, and then it's going to be jumping over the Atlantic all the way to the east coast of the States and moving its way across from the East, Canada as well, Latin America all the way to Vancouver, and then ending off most probably somewhere around Hawaii. So it's going to be an amazing event where you can tap into any of the sessions globally at any time in any region. So it's going to be quite a universal event that's going to be launched on it's going to happen on the 29th of September. And this event we're having this evening is a pre-event because we've been talking about culture. We've been talking about culture in Africa. And the next pre-event we're going to be having, very much the same as this, it's going to be on the topic of sustainability. And both of them basically lead up to IXDD, with a theme this year, as you will see in the short clip I'm going to show you, is actually culture and sustainability, where we're going to have a massive, most probably a couple of hours event. So I'm just going to share my screen, shout out that it's working, all participants. You can start sharing with someone else. Am I doing this right? What do I do? I click there. Desktop. And then I'm going to just shout out. Can you see the white screen?
Interaction Design Day is an opportunity for
bringing together
the design community from all different backgrounds
to reflect, take stock in what we do.
and this is an opportunity for designers to
hear from each other
and discover things which we don't really talk about enough.
Okay, back. I'm not sure. I'm back to us.
Yes.
I'll be back with us now, or I'm gonna stop sharing, and there we go. Thank you very much. Get excited. Put it in your diaries. 29th of September. It's going to be happening globally. World Interaction Design Day, IXDD. Thank you.
Okay, I was reading. Thank you, Wayne. I was trying to read what what Malik wrote here. Show the
Malek,
empathy of the users.
Malek have a connection issue. She wasn't able to connect, through video. So.
Oh, okay. Like I was as I was saying, I was reading what she wrote here. She said the empathy of users needs and they different culture. Make sure to better understand the background so you can relate to them more effectively, which means you can address them more thoroughly and in more complete way. Innovate with collective subject. Oh, that's a really cool. Please, Karim, tell Malik thanks on our behalf for this contribution. I think we're going to Jonathan now, and Mo is going to be the last one to close because we are kind of behind the schedule. Like, what would you tell in a very short sentence? What can we do in a practical way, and how can we contribute as designer for the future? And how can we shape the culture?
I think the how is already known. We know our process and we know what we need to do. The question is, will we, and will we do the work? And okay. I believe what Richard said very rightfully earlier is that by the very nature of who and what we do, we are problem solvers. And I believe that the word that Mo used earlier about the word honesty, is ensuring that we also understand that we may be problem solvers, but sometimes we create the problems ourselves, or we're part of them. Okay. And we need to be honest about that. I said earlier, we shouldn't be repeating past mistakes. We should be looking towards the future as to what we can be doing. And that requires innovation. So to summarize, what I would suggest is that there's a global theme coming up with the IXDA global event, which is amazing. Looking forward to that, absolutely. And the global theme of culture and sustainability, I thought it was interesting that it's two separate elements. And what I've heard here today is this hunger and need and awareness that culture needs to be sustained. And so culture is one thing to talk about, but in order to create the action items to actually ensure that it's sustainable and that it is reminded of and that it's inclusive, is the localization of what we do versus the global need of what is happening around us. And so the action item I would suggest is to make sure that everyone reminds themselves is that you shouldn't retrofit your values once you've settled and leveled out what your values are. You shouldn't feel a need to retrofit them into current systems or methodologies if they don't work to sustain your culture. If your values need to innovate and change our current methodologies and constructs and systems and service design provisions, then do that. We all need to do that because where we're going is very different from where we were. And this transition, this paradigm is the natural environment for design. And so the action item is to be aware of your skill set, be proud of who you are and what you do, and bring that to the forefront of the ever increasing need to sustain culture and to embed it into every step going forward to ensure that your voice is one of many and not just the voice dictating what needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Like sometimes I feel that everything you say feels like a quote. I feel like I can quote everything you're saying. It's a really cool.
I said, Gidon, I really, really happy.
Sorry?
I said, I'm really happy. You are really happy to have him with us. Such a great name, such a such an expert with in our humble gathering. It makes really us very proud and very blessed that he did join us.
We are a family. We're only as good as anybody else that we're beside. I stand beside you.
Thank you again.
Thanks for that, John. But to close, let's go to Mo. So Mo, like the question is, what can we do in a practical way to address the problem that we've been talking about here? Actually, the problem that you bring to the table.
So I'm hoping I'm not the problem here, Gideon, right?
No.
I want to say from the bottom of my heart, my brother, thank you for for chairing in the way that you have. It's been such a pleasure having this conversation with you, and you're doing such an awesome job. In fact, Wayne, I would argue that the emceeing of we need to gate crash this gig that's happening, this worldwide gig that's happening in September. And Wayne, I would argue that Gideon should be the master of ceremonies for that gig, dude. So let's make that happen. Or else we're just going to burn the place down, right? Okay, so my toughness to Gideon, what that said, is that I think what I would suggest.
Burn it down online.
Say again.
We'll burn it down online.
Exactly. Burning Man, here we come, brother. So the first thing I would ask from a practical perspective, and I think you framed it so well to say what are the practical aspects we can get out of this, Gideon, and thank you for doing that. I would say document. And the reason I would say document is that, you know, I like for me, Mozambican wood sculpture is by far the best in the world, as is Zimbabwean soapstone sculpture, or masks from West Africa, or fabrics from Ghana, you know, or beadwork from KwaZulu-Natal. You know, you've got all of this beautiful, rich, and then you've got this amazing kind of henna tattoo stuff that's going on in Karim's part of the world. So we've got all of this amazing stuff, and the very fact that if you look at Richard's kind of pattern in the back, you know, him sitting in, I believe, Abuja, right? That pattern translates very well into Ndebele or Zulu, into Zulu beadwork, just right there. That connection is there, you guys. It runs in our veins, right? So I would say document, and the reason I would say document is that so we can learn from each other. Then I would say let us collaborate and create together. So, I mean, Wayne's thrown open a platform and saying, hey guys, we need content from Africa. So as a collective, with Karim's amazing energy and yours and Richard's and Wayne's, and perhaps we bring Jonathan in as well, because I know he's very passionate about First Nations, is that we create amazing content and then we go out in September and we show the world who's boss, right? I mean, this is the mother continent and it should be the mother of all ideas.
Yay, I like that. Thanks, Mo. This is a spectacular closing. I don't think I could have done better than this. Karim, thank you for to start this initiative, and looking forward for more meetups like this. And guys, this was a really fantastic session, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gideon. Thank you, everybody that did help to make this happen. It was a dream, and now it's happening. The first Africa UX meetup. So I'm gonna applaud you all. Going this is gonna be the first one. We're gonna have a lot of meetup. This continent deserves your attention. The continent deserves UX. This continent deserves design.
And Jonathan, thanks for virtually flying in from Vancouver.
You're very welcome. I have to say what's humorous is that we have events all over the world, but because of the time zones and the meeting times, I actually still have jet lag, even though I haven't left my home. Thank you all so much. Thank you very much for letting me be a part of this. You should be very, very proud of what you're doing, and I really look forward to seeing what you do next.
Thanks, guys. It's been really awesome.
Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you, guys.
everyone.
Bye.